On this episode, we want to give a shout out to Shelby Bottoms Nature Center and Park. We love this park. When we were deciding to do dad walks, we knew this was the park we wanted to go to. They've got lakes, they've got playgrounds, they've got baseball fields, they've got it all. You've got to check out Shelby Bottoms Nature Center and Park. Welcome to another episode of the Nashville Dads. This week we have on Joey Fuson of Freeman and Fuson. We talk about his life as a criminal defense attorney, cannabis law, and managing stress. We hope you enjoy.
Nice.
Is that my phone?
It might be.
I've got a great dad story as to why it's on ring. This is going to be a perfect segue.
Sweet. Yeah.
You
can go look at your phone also.
I'm just going to turn it off.
Okay, cool. Sweet. Yeah, you're good, man. But back to fatherhood here on the Nashville Dads.
Well, I never have my phone on ring. I'm in the courtroom every day.
So oh my gosh, really?
I'm in the courtroom 5 days a week, and you can't have it on ring because in the middle of the judge, it'll just go off, and they look, and it's in my bag, and I can't deal with that. Mm-hmm. So it's never on ring, and I even chastise my father-in-law who puts it on the loudest, most obnoxious,
I didn't know father-in-law is new and different level of ringtone. It's always
and then he can never find his phone or get to his phone, so it goes on forever and ever. Mm-hmm. In the middle of a softball game, it'll be going off so loud that they'll stop play to get him to answer.
Like, seriously, man.
And so my daughter had prom last night, and she's 16, and she's a sophomore at Franklin Road Academy. So I had some duties last night that involved me making sure that if anybody was around alcohol, they weren't going to be driving.
Yep.
She was with some friends of hers. They were at a big party, and so I was supposed to be there to potentially come get her if need be.
Yeah.
And so I was laying up on the couch last night, and I was like, well, I guess I got to turn my phone on ring. So I turned on ring, turned the volume all the way up, set it next to me, and passed out. So forgot to turn it off.
Forgot to turn it off. Well, luckily you were not in a courtroom, and you were here.
Yes. That's right. Well, and it really stemmed around my daughter and I was discussing alcohol.
Yeah.
And that really was the essence of why I was even involved in the discussion. Is I've had pretty frank discussions with her about alcohol and drugs. And as a lawyer that defends most of the time people charged with alcohol and drug addiction or drug charges in a lot of cases related to drug and alcohol addiction, it's just something that I deal with every day. So I talk to my kids about it pretty straight up. And I told her, I said, look, you're not going to hear me get mad at you if you're exposed to alcohol and you decide to break down and drink.
Yeah.
I'm not naive to that fact. I get it. Mm-hmm. What I don't want you to do is have that decision clouded by your friends and peer pressure and things like that. They're going to have that to take place in a situation that could cause other problems, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to go out and drink in a parking lot in Brentwood, what happens there, right? Well, you could get arrested. You could get kicked out of school. You could be compelled to get behind the wheel of a car and drive. Yeah. I don't want any of those things to happen.
Nope.
So it's not the alcohol thing. I get that. I just don't want you to be doing this in a way that's going to hurt you, hurt other people. And I said, listen, if you or your friends are ever in a situation, I'll come get you.
Yeah.
Any time of the day, any time of night, I'll come get you. You're not going to hear me get mad at you. We'll talk about it tomorrow. I'll get you home and we'll deal with it later. Mm-hmm. She's like, okay. The first time it happened was at homecoming. Maybe one of their Christmas things. I forget. Winter formal.
Okay.
And she had gone with some friends, and the friends had decided to have a drink or something in a parking lot on the way to the event. Just so classic sophomore high school stupid shit, right? And I even told them, I said, where were you? We're next to the Brentwood so-and-so. I said, oh, right next to the police department. Okay.
Oh,
that's brilliant.
Real smart.
Brilliant. So, but she called me that night, the first time she ever done that. She called me and said, hey, I want to drive so-and-so and so-and-so back home, but they need to leave their car because they've had alcohol, and I told them they can't drive with alcohol. Will you take them back in the morning to their car? I said, yeah, for sure, 100%. Yeah. They came back. I wasn't like celebrating the fact that it had happened, but they came back. They all went to bed. No big deal. And the next day I came to her. I said, thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like that's all you want as a dad, man. You just want them to call you and trust that you're not going to be there in a situation where you're going to make it worse. You know, they need you to make it better. So I was really proud of that. And then that carried over to prom where she came to me and said, hey, look, I think there's going to be alcohol there. Don't know. But if there is, will you come get us? And I said, well, yeah, I don't want you to drink, but if you end up doing that, yes, I'm here for you. Well, she ended up not, and I don't know if there was alcohol there or not, but ultimately that was the whole aura behind it, or the reason behind my high ring volume.
That was
you don't want your kids to be scared to be able to tell you things like that, because then they will see it as a punishment, or they'll just never tell you anything, and then it can snowball from there.
I didn't drink in high school. My parents did have that rule. They're like, cool, you're going to be at places where there's alcohol. We can't stop you from drinking or whatever you're going to do. But if you drive drunk, you'll be grounded forever. Like, just call us. Just don't. You could kill yourself. You could kill other people. Like, you could potentially ruin lives if you drive drunk. Don't do it. Just call us.
I get a little nugget of benefit that you guys don't get is I get to use other experiences that aren't my own.
Yeah.
They come from clients.
Yeah, that's right.
So I get to talk about it a lot more. Hey, you're not going to believe what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's real. This isn't just a dad story, but this is something that happened to a friend, somebody who went to Brentwood High School 3 months ago.
Yeah.
I know, because I'm involved in the case.
Yeah.
I'm representing them currently.
Yeah, and I'm good at
it. You have a million stories of everything you can think of.
17 years. Yeah, I've been doing it for a long time, and it's so fun. My friends will, especially the friends I don't see all the time that are not especially in the legal community. I mean, they're like, "Oh, give us some stories. What's your best case? What's your most interesting case?" And the podcast phenomenon really drove a lot of that because the true crime podcast stuff.
Oh yeah,
people are so into those, and now with TVs being in the courtroom pretty regularly. Yeah, I mean, not in our courtrooms, but all the celebrity type cases, you've got full access, and the coverage is so good because the cameras don't take up the whole corner of the courtroom. You can sit there with something pretty small and get a very good.
Yeah.
And so they let the cameras in. You get a lot of I think people are just more into that, so they assume that a lot of the cases are like that, and the reality is a lot of them are not.
Yeah.
There's pretty crazy stuff. Truth is definitely stranger than fiction, but most of the cases I handle involve people that either through, whether it's substance abuse, anger issues, and that goes both ways, the person they're involved with or them, but things that are result in people making bad decisions, right? Whether it's getting behind the wheel of a car, and they may not be impaired to the point where they shouldn't be driving, but they've had alcohol on their breath. The officer smells that.
Yep.
They don't do good on those field sobriety tests, which are pretty tough. They end up in jail. Yeah, it's probably on a low level of bad decisions when it comes to it, but it really ultimately was a bad decision, and most people ultimately look back and say, yeah, I need to make a better decision next time. And a lot of people I represent them once, and I never hear from them again, right?
Oh wow.
Yeah, I mean the most people. Yeah, most people don't get in trouble a lot, but there's a big group of people that do, and usually that's driven by mental illness, substance abuse, or some kind of other issues.
Yeah, it's not just hey, you made a bad decision, and then you're like, oh man, I'm never going to do this again. It's like, oh no, this is a habit. You actually probably need some meds to help calm you down so you don't get back into space, and hopefully you do that.
Yeah, I mean, in mental illness, we talk about it a lot. My buddy Darren Hobbs, who's got a podcast, we talked about it when we were sitting around rapping about some of the stuff he deals with, is how much of and Brandon was involved too. He was over there with us. We were all talking. Just how big of a role mental health and mental illness has on all of criminal justice. And because it could very be low level that results in people self-medicating with alcohol and drugs. It could be something that involves people being angry with their spouses or having a bad relationship where results in some kind of problem there. You look at divorces and child custody issues. A lot of that comes with people either having some level of mental health. It could be something as simple as anxiety, or as common as anxiety and depression, and it could be something really extreme like you're bipolar and you're schizophrenic
and unpredictable.
Yeah, and it's not illegal to be crazy.
No.
And I say crazy because people get really frustrated with that word. That's just a very surface level word, but it's not illegal to have mental health issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But what happens is they manifest themselves in all these different ways that we see, and it's a big part of what we deal with, and it's hard to get treatment for that. Yeah. Little simpler for drugs and alcohol because you usually can identify the drug, what it causes. It's an opiate or it's a stimulant or it's an alcohol or depressant, and we deal with it this way in treatment. And so we deal with a lot of people in drug and alcohol treatment.
How do you keep your mental health good if you're representing people? Normally don't call a lawyer because you've had a good day. No. Normally it's not a good time. How do you maintain like a positive outlook on life? How do you maintain your positivity or goodness if you're in trial every single day?
Yeah, and just to be clear, I'm not in trial every day. I'm in court every day.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm using the wrong terms because I'm not a lawyer.
No. But you're right there. There's some people that are in trials very for multiple weeks at a time, and it is very draining. So the first part of your question, it is taxing because what happens is the trial day starts at 8. You're usually going till 4 or 5. Your brain is churning for 8 hours nonstop, and you have to stay hydrated. We always talk about the headaches that come in the afternoon. If you're not hydrating, and some people maybe deal with this differently. I generally keep Advil or something with me, Tylenol, and I'm usually taking one of those midday, drinking more water, so it keeps that massive headache that comes at the end of the day when you've been focusing all day without hydration. And then, multiple days of that becomes taxing emotionally. But weirdly enough, the trials are actually what you really it's what we kind of strive to do. So there's a sense of accomplishment when you do it. Yeah. Even if you lose, you've kind of done what they've hired you to do. You've gone to battle for them. Mm-hmm. You get out of the battle, and you're kind of scarred up a little bit. And most of the time we win, but sometimes you lose. Yeah, I mean, that weirdly enough takes so much out of you, but it also is the most fulfilling thing you'll do as a lawyer.
Gotcha.
You know, sometimes the practicing, like the athletes will talk about, the practice isn't as much fun as the game. We practice a lot. I mean, we're in court a lot on settlement dates, negotiations, things that go on for a while before we ever get to a trial. Very few cases actually go to trial. Okay. But as far as dealing with the people's calls, I mean, as a criminal defense lawyer, every call I get is a bad call.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, nobody calls me with good news.
Not usually.
No, never. I mean, I always joke. I stopped asking people as a pleasantry, how you doing?
Yep.
Yeah.
I know how they're doing. If they're calling me, it ain't good.
Nope.
And it's either not good for them, for a family member, or a child, or a spouse, or somebody else. So, that's something I have been dealing with, and I try to help my attorneys and our staff deal with it. We are dealing with people at their worst and their lowest.
Yep.
We have to be compassionate. We have to be non-judgmental. We don't have to always take the case. I don't have to sign up to take your case if I don't think I'm compelled to do that. But we need to have that sense of compassion to them. And it helps our mental health because if we take on everybody's stress at all times, we're not going to be around long. No. And so we may be able to do it for several years, but then you'll just end up hitting a wall. Yeah. Because you just can't do it. And so I'm a pretty passionate person. I wear my heart pretty big on my sleeve. Yeah. So, I don't try to lose that, but I've got to monitor that. And a lot of times I do that by running home to my family and my friends and kind of getting away from it. But it's tough. I mean, I've started to implement things like yoga. Cool. Trying to get more sleep, which is really tough.
It is.
And then, I've had some other medical issues that have caused me to make some sensible decisions in my diet to where I try to keep from eating late at night because it messes my stomach a little bit. So I've tried to do some things that have tried to eliminate that cortisol, that stress level. Yep. But when I met with a functional medicine person, they said, 3 things that cause some of this stuff is stress and poor eating and lack of sleep. And I said, well, I can't eliminate the stress.
Not so much, not unless you change careers.
So we'll work on the other stuff. So we've been trying to do that.
Well, it's not necessarily eliminating the stress. It's managing it and being able to mindfully know that you're about to go into this stressful and pulling back. At least that's
or like
for
disassociating yourself from the stress to some extent. Yeah,
I have not nearly the stressful job that you have, but I work for a landscape company where there's 100 people that work under me. 100 different people, personalities, craziness going on,
and that's not even your clients.
Yeah, and then I have my clients, and my stress. I'd freak out. I got help. This is part of my therapy now, but I am also medicated to bring that down just a little bit. So I'm not as high up on that tension that I used to be.
Yeah, I mean, I have always had this fear of I say fear, just a not liking taking medication. Mm-hmm. I don't know where it comes from. I've been a big proponent of cannabis. I'm not anti anything. I'll drink socially. I just have always been pushed back from that for no other reason other than just as a kid I didn't like that. Don't know why. And then as I've gotten older, I've started to look at those options. In fact, I even talked about it at some point after 2020 when I had a pretty tough time post 2020. Yeah. For a variety of reasons, one of which being my health, and I got diagnosed with colitis, and it was really bad. Lost a whole bunch of weight, and was trying to figure out in essence, how to deal with some of that.
You had to
and
redefine yourself.
Yeah, and biologics was put on the table by my doctor, and I was like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't want to be forced to take this. So I've been taking some medication with the goal of trying to not, and so that's where it's come with some of these other issues. But yeah, I mean, the stress is all relative. And I tell my wife this because she's an event planner.
Oh, gosh.
and somebody who runs a construction landscape company like that. It's all relative. I mean, I think people who work in certain roles, if I were to go in your job for a day, I'd be stressed beyond belief. And if you were to come over to my job, I'm sure it would.
I'd be a deer in the headlights, huh?
Yeah. Well, I build to this. I mean, I've got young associates that are 1 year out of law school that are dealing with it the same way you probably would. If I just grabbed you and said, all right, hey, let's go do this. You'd go, well, what am I doing?
Yeah.
What do I need to say? And so once you do it a couple times, okay, that stress level starts to reduce. Yeah. But what I've tried to tell everybody in my office and we've tried to live by is that we are paid to deal with stressful situations.
Yeah, that's true.
To stop the stress means we're not working.
Yeah, that's true.
We have
there's
to
not
deal
much
with
of a need for you if there's no stress.
So it's what you said. It's the management of and the dealing with it and taking on good stress. So my 2023 goal has been to reduce unnecessary stresses and things that I'm causing, self-inflicted stresses.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing that good of a job. I'm trying. I take on way too much.
I'm a big believer of normally when you give advice, you're actually telling yourself the advice. The person you're sitting next to thinks like, oh, you're helping me. And I'm like, no, this is for me. This was actually self-interest. Like,
that's right. I do the same thing when I have office meetings. I'm telling them, we need to do more of this. They're like, yeah, you're the one not doing it.
You're the main source of the problem. I know I was trying to be helpful and that you guys know I'm working on it and I didn't know how to say that directly.
That's right. Yeah.
I do think medicine is interesting, even something as simple as like I have really bad allergies and I hate knowing that I'm dependent on allergy shots. I'm like, no, my body should be able to deal with this by itself. And then I'm like, why do you have another sinus infection? Because my body can't deal with this on its own.
That's right.
So do those allergy shots.
For the allergy shots, like you're supposed to take them. I think it was you started off doing them once a week, and then you build
it
up
spaces out once you build it up.
So then, I mean, after a while, at least for me, I'm hoping that I don't have to take them, or if I do, I don't have to take them every month, but maybe every 2 months or something like that.
Yeah.
Same with the anti-anxiety and anti-stress or antidepressant medication. I'm slowly weaning myself back off of it. Mm-hmm. I just needed that to help as a baseline. Get me to a good baseline, and then wean yourself off.
I always view it as like static. Like you're trying to reduce the static around your brain because right now your brain is in such fight or flight mode that it's like, okay, this creates some unhealthy habits, and your body's like, I don't think I can live through this. I can't develop a habit. I think I'm going to die. So can I not do this? And meds help with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's healthy stress and there's unhealthy stress, and when it becomes unhealthy, you've either got to make life changes or you have to get on some kind of medication and then make life changes because
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, because the pharmaceutical industry, when you look at benzodiazepam and those drugs, I mean, they're really bad, you know. And if you're taking them in very low doses and doing it the right way, they're wonderful, you know.
Yeah.
I just know that a lot of what I see is people that I've taken that and then started abusing that, and then it goes on, and that's when it becomes a little more difficult. Back to allergies. I mean, I had allergies. I grew up in Tennessee.
Yeah.
We just have pollen all over our heads,
year round.
Yeah, and I had allergies really bad as a kid, and weirdly enough, I'm 40, almost about to be 45, and they've kind of gone away. It's the weirdest thing, and my wife has now got them, who grew up with no allergies.
Yeah.
And my kids have them, and I'm the only one in the house that has these very minor seasonal allergies now. And I laugh. I'm like, thank God. I felt like it seems like I was able to grow through something.
Yes. Yeah. You put in your allergy time already.
My brother had shots and everything.
They're not very fun.
I haven't gone to get shots in like 3 months.
I don't know if that's how it's supposed to work, Justin.
I know it's not.
You're supposed to do it like every month for like 3 years.
I actually feel great.
Maybe you're growing out of them like I am.
Have you talked to your allergist about it?
I have not.
You should talk to.
I'm pretty sure the next time I go there, I'm like, where were you?
So here, I had sinus surgery in like 2013. I did allergy shots, about a year of allergy shots. I was like, I feel normal. I'm not going to do these anymore, and didn't talk to my allergist. 7 years later, I'm doing allergy shots again because all of my allergy problems came back because I didn't go through with all the allergy shots for like 2 to 3 years.
Stubbornness right there.
It's not stubbornness. It's My allergies were the stubborn ones. I'm not stubborn.
Okay.
It's the pollen in the air
right.
that's stubborn.
You had sinus surgery. I heard that is really painful.
It was not very fun. I had like a deviated
just, like-
septum. Yeah, they just take a chisel and put
Yeah.
it inside.
Well, I did the deviated septum surgery, but not the sinus surgery. So I went and got the plastic things put in my face.
Yep, I had those.
And I've got a good story. So, and it involves fatherhood. So I got young kids. I've got a law practice that I'm running. I'm probably 2 or 3 years out of practice. And I go to get this little surgery that they say is not going to be a big deal.
I'm
I'm
just going to correct my septum.
yeah. I went in Thursday afternoon, and they said you can take off Friday, and I had scheduled to be back at work on Monday.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Didn't work out that way,
No,
did it?
I didn't know what they did.
Yeah.
I went to get surgery. I never asked any questions.
Because they're
And
so casual about it.
yeah, just come in. We'll fix it and it'll be
Yeah.
easy. Oh, great. Well, I showed up there, and I left there like somebody had put a chisel, as you pointed out, right through the center of my face.
Basically.
And it hurt so bad. And again, back to my resistance to taking medication. I don't take all the meds right at the beginning. I'm not going to take all these. I'll take a couple. Well, that's just a really bad decision for anybody.
It's a little overconfident.
Yeah, that's when you really need to be taking meds.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
And so I was in more pain than I needed to be. I then started taking more meds because I was in a lot of pain, which made me really kind of depressed and all these things that came flooding in. And I was out for a full week, which added all kinds of stresses because I couldn't be in the court, and I was so it really was a bad time. And I went back to get those things taken out, and the doctor said, "Well, this is going to be the most painful thing. We're going to clip the stitches, but that's going to be the most painful thing." I said, "Okay." They clipped them, and they were right. That was pretty painful because they apparently yours kind of grows around it. Clipped that. My eyes were pouring with water, and they then came and pulled out these things out of my face.
The shields.
The shields that were about 4 inches long, and my father-in-law, who's a nurse anesthetist, who used to be involved in those surgeries, says, "Yeah, we used to cut the tops of those Folgers coffee cans, that hard plastic, to make those."
What?
And I don't think the technology has changed much because they look like crescent moon versions of a top of a coffee can, and they were in my face. And when they pulled them out, it was like somebody pulled the thing out of my face, and I literally left there and was fine. I mean, by the time I got home, I was fine.
Yeah.
Totally fine.
Oh,
like,
man.
I could have gone back to work that hour.
Yep. It feels
Crazy.
like, so I had a deviated septum and I had polyps inside my nose. So like little growth that they had to basically scrape out and get out of there. Whenever I had the shields taken out of my nose, they were like, you're going to want to take a pain pill before, and you're going to want to have someone drive you because it's not going to feel good. And I remember my wife asking like, how did you get those in there? And the ENT was like, a lot of lubricant. Like not even anything cute, just not even like, we did this just like, you kind of lube it up and shove it in. And you're like, it's not something I want to hear about in my body.
So
Not
it doesn't
good.
just go up your nose; it goes like into your sinus cavity.
Yeah, you basically they do so much surgery in there. They do like everything's raw, so they want to protect it so that it doesn't like you don't damage anything while it's healing.
Yeah.
And you have to do like sinus rinses also. Like it is 10 out of 10 would not repeat.
Okay, I'm not.
Yeah,
gonna
it
do
is.
that.
I mean, and I have the need for it right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely should go back right now and have that same surgery done.
Oh.
Like,
oh, so you're
hell
supposed to do
no.
it multiple times?
No,
Hopefully not.
mine-
Hopefully not.
Yeah, mine just has not. It's gone back. I mean, I can tell it's gotten bad again. But
Yeah.
not going back.
I
anytime
used
soon.
to, I would do a
Oh, you
neti
guys-
pot, and I would do it through one nostril, and it would just go down the back of my throat because it was deviated so bad that
That's
it
what
was
mine
just
is.
blockage. And I'm like, all right, this is pretty disgusting. I do need that surgery, and I had chronic sinusitis and everything. So
Yeah, and the ability to breathe through your nose is very important. I was just seeing something on TikTok or one of the things that pops up on your Facebook about the mouth breathing thing and how it actually can change the shape of your face
Oh,
if
And
you
your
seriously?
jaw,
your
Oh, yeah.
jawline
Uh-huh.
and there's like a pronounced mouth breathing thing if you especially do it as a kid and
There's
it
a
will change the face
book by
Fascinating.
I can't remember his name, but Nestor I think is his last name, and it's called Breath or Breathe, and it talks all about that.
Really?
Not mouth breathing, but breathing through your nose, how to do it correctly, and how it'll redefine your jawline and
Fascinating.
face and everything.
Yeah, I've been working
We're
on a lot
supposed
of that with yoga too because
Yeah.
they want you to breathe through your nose for
Correct.
3
Yep.
seconds or 4 seconds and then breathe out and
That's apparently how we were supposed to breathe.
dang it.
when you've got all those the filtration through
Yeah.
your nose and how much
Yeah, it keeps everything clean.
cleaner.
How do you, I do yoga also. How do you like doing yoga so far?
I love it.
It's really nice. Once you like get over whatever mental hurdle it is of like, oh, it's not that much of a workout, then you do, you're like, oh, I have muscles aching that I didn't know existed within my body. This is a massive workout.
Do you guys go somewhere?
No, I just do it at home. I'll like find YouTube videos and do it like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I go to the hot yoga studio.
Do
So
you
I
really?
go to the Core Power studio.
Nice.
Yeah, and I do the hot. I like to do the fusion class,
That's
which is
a
the
real
hot
workout.
class.
Oh man, how hot do they?
It's hot. And what I joke, because I joke with some of the people that work with me, and they're like, because I tell them I'm going to yoga, and they're like, I said, you should come with us, and they're like, I've never done hot yoga. I said, well, here's the deal. The first time you go to hot yoga, if you can just make it through the class, you're good. Like once you do the whole 60 minutes in that heat, maybe one or two times, you kind of know what to expect. So that feeling about 20 minutes into it when you're like, I can't breathe too great. Yeah, it's really hot in here, It's not so much about the yoga. And then you can focus on doing more of the moves and kind of, but I've got to have about 4 towels around me because I sweat like crazy.
Oh man.
It intimidates me. Like whenever I see like just doing yoga in my living room, I'm like, okay, this is more of a workout than I anticipated. Adding, how hot does it get in there? Like over 100 degrees?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm legitimately intimidated by it. I'm like, you guys are good. I'm good. Maybe we'll meet another day.
You've got to come with me sometime.
Oh,
you absolutely
crap.
do
I just
it.
signed up for it.
Yeah, because there's a less hot one. There's one that's not super hot, but it's still hot.
There's a mild yoga.
There's like,
so did they just turn the heat up, or is it like a sauna hot or steam room type hot? Or
the rooms they're designed and meant to get that hot because they would have all kinds of mold, and I can't imagine what would happen if they had just a hot room. But no, it's got the ceiling. You can tell the ceiling's decked out to have these vents up there, and then there's some kind of, I don't know.
Interesting.
I don't know exactly how that works. I'm sure there's a big dehumidifying system that comes in and
keep it all clean.
Yeah. So, but it's been pretty good. I mean, I did it in my goal of trying to reduce stress and try to have something that helps me with mindfulness and concentration. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I've really gained from it, this sounds kind of weird, but is just the ability to focus for 60 minutes on something that's not work, stress, restaurant, any of the things I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just working on trying to get my back leg up to go higher, for just a second.
You're thinking about your core and realizing the more you breathe, the more you'll be okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're supposed to set your intention. They always want to use. I've been setting my intention lately of just trying to focus for 60 minutes and like breathe every time and like just do that. Yeah, and it's hard. It's like that mindfulness stuff that if you guys have ever tried that with some of those apps and different things. Yeah, try not to think about anything.
It's really hard.
Really hard.
Because that's what meditation actually is you sit there and as thoughts come to you, you accept them and release them and go back to your intent. You go to your mantra or your
breathing
intentionality
or something. Yeah.
Because it's hard. Because as you sit there, I mean, even if right now I took my phone and tried to sit here for 10 minutes with the timer on and sit in the other room, for like after 3 minutes, I'd be like, so when's that timer going off? When can I go do anything but this right now? And all you're doing is sitting still. It shouldn't be that hard. But it's really hard.
And if you set your phone in front of you and try to do that, within 2 minutes you'd start reaching and you'd forget you're even doing it.
But you turn the timer off and be like, so what's going on over here? Yeah.
Or even forget you're on a timer. Just start looking through your phone and go, oh, what was I doing?
Oh, crap. And then the timer goes off and you're like, what the hell was that for?
I do the app Headspace.
Yeah, that's the one I try.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Because you can go for longer, but I set mine at just 10 minutes. Just trying to have 10 minutes of silence. And then hopefully I can do
be
more
recharged.
and more.
Yeah.
But that and then those cold showers and meditating in those cold showers.
Oh yeah,
too.
Nice.
You have to.
Well, I mean,
they're so painful.
It's pretty much like
agreed.
Discomfort is going to come to you during your day. What is your mental space whenever that happens? And I do feel like as an adult, as a father, I should be really good at when I'm uncomfortable, not being mean to people. Mm-hmm. So if you can get into a practice of I'm uncomfortable, what are you doing? I'm still finding kindness. I'm finding my intentionality. I feel like I've done the right thing in those scenarios.
Yeah, it's
not easy.
Well, and my wife and I have talked about this a lot. So I've got to stay composed throughout the day, generally dealing with clients that have all kinds of crazy issues and stuff that comes up that they're stressed out and they're losing their mind. And I've got to be the calm, like, listen, it's okay. We're gonna have to turn you into the police. I know it's not going to be fun, but you got to do this. And here's what we're gonna. And then I'll get in the car and on the whole way home, I'm on the phone with clients and do whatever. And I'll walk in the door, and I've been great, right? I've been great at holding, being composed and being thoughtful and being there, strength and patience. And 2 minutes into that, they start screaming about some shirt they don't want. And I'm like, what the? Yeah. And it's so weird. I told my wife, I was like, why can I be so good all day in this world of chaos and then come into a world of way minimal when you
Yeah.
think of the grand scheme of them fighting about a shirt or mad because somebody took somebody's lipstick. I
Yeah.
don't know what it is. The Lulu shorts that aren't theirs, but those are theirs and they're not theirs.
There, yeah.
So that world, and I have a hard time, and it's almost like I let my guard down when I really need to have my guard at full force. It's almost like and so I've been trying my hardest to almost set my intention when I'm driving home to get away from work and have that segregation. And it takes some, we're at this time, we got teenage girls. So there's, it's going to be a level of stress that exists that we have to deal with, but it's hard, and it's hard to, it's just hard to say the right thing.
You have to take some time to transition from your work to your family. Because that type of work that you do, it's just got to be so high tense, high anxiety, high stress. But I applaud you, man.
Well, I think, and thank you for saying that. I mean, it is, but I will also say that, again, like any job, it's high stress. I think one of the things that adds to that, most people that work a job, there's an end time. Mm-hmm. Not everybody. I mean, it gets dark, so you can't do landscaping at night. Or, if you're in the hospital, when you leave the hospital, nobody's calling your house to come give them a surgery. Like,
not usually. Yeah.
No, but somehow, I don't know where this happened, but people believe that their lawyer is available to them, and I've allowed that. I allow them. I'm available to them. Yeah. But weirdly enough, the 5 o'clock bell doesn't mean anything. But in fact, most people, when they leave at 5 o'clock from their job that does have an end time, that's when they start dealing with their personal things, like their lawsuit or their criminal case or their custody case, or Friday afternoon when the child exchange comes along.
Yeah.
Well, that's when things happen. So that's a Friday afternoon at 5 o'clock phone call. Well, usually 5 o'clock, most jobs, people are
they're done.
Already cracked a beer and hanging out their house
done.
and watering their garden. So that's a little bit of the added. And then I also add to that because I make myself available. I grew up here. A lot of the people I represent are either friends or associates or people that are friends of friends. And so I represent a lot of people that I also know. Yeah. And so I make myself extra available to them. But it's not less stressful because usually they're only calling me for something that they need help with,
I feel like it's really difficult because in those moments, you're assuming it'll only take you like 3 seconds to answer a question. You're like, oh, you know what? This person's going to ask this question. The answer will move along your day and nothing will happen. And then you get off the phone 45 minutes later. And you're like, oh, that was not a quick phone call. That was most of the night. Sorry, family. Sorry, everyone else in the room. I'll be back later.
Yeah. You just nailed it 100%. And it's even worse that I'm my own worst enemy because I somehow want to answer the question for them. And I want to make them feel better. One of the best gifts I can give somebody, I'm serious, they call. I mean, I get this every week. They call in a frantic state. Okay, my husband's gotten arrested for DUI. Yeah. What do I do? He's in jail. I got to get him out. They're just high stress. Yeah. And I will spend time with them. And almost every time by the end of the conversation, they say, oh, my God, thank you so much. I feel so much better than I felt when I made the phone call. Yeah. Sometimes people never hire me, and we've got to go through those phone calls and be the same every time and be thoughtful and helpful and all those things and sincere. Yeah. And you can't get jaded by the fact that sometimes those don't result in any payment. And here's the other thing. What was so good about what you said was the 5-minute conversation. Hey, I got a quick question.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the quick legal question turns into a 30-minute phone call.
Pretty much.
Because I'm long-winded. And, we don't bill for that. There's no payment for that. Yeah. I don't get paid. And if you do that a few times a day, my stock and trade as a lawyer is my time. I don't have a widget that I make. I don't have an amazing property that I make look beautiful. Or I have my time and my brain and my staff and my team. And because of that, I give it away a lot. Yeah. And giving away a lot results in a lot of, and so when people, do hire me and they may say, well, look, you only took a few hours, but I paid you this number. And I'm like, well, it took me a few hours just then. Yeah. It took me 17 years to get to where it only took me a few hours. Yep. Yeah. And then I also have to factor in, I don't get to work for, I don't get to bill all my time. Yeah. So I've got to kind of contemplate that when I charge my fees, and I charge reasonable fees, but that's kind of part of that, and I don't know if it'll ever change. And if you look at our website, we've got maybe 100 reviews. we started on the landlord-tenant cases charging a consult fee.
Yeah.
Because we couldn't pay a lawyer to be there to answer questions all day.
No.
From countless tenants. And so we charge a $500 consultation fee. People get so mad about that. And nobody would go to their doctor and expect to go for free.
Not usually.
Nobody calls the doctor and says, hey, I got a medical question. Can you give me 10 minutes? I mean, which would be great if you could. You just go to WebMD.
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of times I want to say, just go to Google. You get so much good information there if you really want some free info. But they get mad about that and say, they want to charge me before I ever talk to them. How do I know I have a case? And I'm like, yeah, I know. That's the point.
Yeah.
We just have to, there's only certain cases we do that for, but it's only the ones that we tend to find are high volume calls, and we just go through so many of them. So we got off track there a little bit.
No, you're good. No, most of us is getting off track.
Yeah.
Well, something that I find fascinating is the cannabis that you go into. Could you just explain that a little bit more?
Yeah.
That seems to be a new big thing here in Tennessee.
It is. Yeah. So I started a company called Hemp Law Group in 2018 after the Farm Bill came out. The federal government in 2018, well, let me back up.
Yeah.
In 2015, Tennessee applied for and was part of what's called a pilot program. The government in 2015 allowed for certain states to do research and a pilot program related to the cultivation of hemp, industrial hemp. Mm-hmm. And just to set the stage, cannabis is the plant.
Okay.
All right, cannabis is the plant. It's cannabis sativa L is what this is. And there are two different types of cannabis. There's marijuana, which is cannabis that has a whole bunch of THC in it. Mm-hmm. And then there's cannabis that doesn't have much THC, which is called hemp.
Cool.
Same plant, just two different, in essence, types of it. Same thing, though. And the reason that's important is people get lost in those words and they say,
totally.
well, yeah, and it's confusing because marijuana and hemp are both made up words. They're not real. I mean, they don't mean anything. They're just made up words. They're not scientific. There's no, scientific name behind that. Marijuana was meant to be derogatory, and to the Hispanic community and to blacks. And it was this like kind of originally marijuana with an H was actually a derogatory connotation for the Hispanic, the Mexican community, immigrant farmers and things like that. And then hemp was more generally associated with like this industrial style cultivation of cannabis in the form of things like rope, all kinds of different cannabis products that up until the turn of the century, people were encouraged in the United States to cultivate hemp because it was an amazing alternative to so many. It was an amazing product. You could make a rope. It's the only thing that could house you, warm you, clothe you. You could cook with, all kinds of different varieties. And so when the Industrial Revolution rolled around, that didn't fit into the mold. Yeah. And so you had people like the Hearsts and the Rockefellers that just got rid of it all. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, they created what's called a marijuana tax. Mm-hmm. And that was in the 1920s, and that was with post-prohibition, right? You had allowed alcohol to come in, then marijuana rolled in, and so they taxed it and they tried to outlaw it. And then fast forward till 1971 when they passed the Controlled Substance Act, it got immediately put again as a Schedule I drug, heavily criminalized. And then I guess in 2000s is when California, I think right in 2000, I think it's 20 years now. Yeah. California was the first state to kind of pass that act that said, no, we're going to make it legal. Yeah. And that was amazing because the federal government wasn't doing that. That was just California. Sure. And then since that, you've had several states, I think now maybe 20-something states now that have legalized it.
Colorado, Washington, I think Oregon.
Oh, I want to say there's over 30 states now that have either made it legal or fully legal or medically legal. Yeah. And so Tennessee has never been one of those states. And the reason I lay that platform is hemp is something different. Hemp originates not with marijuana. All those states have marijuana that's legal. They can have THC levels or whatever you want them to be. In Tennessee in 2015, we had our first hemp program that allowed us to research and develop and cultivate hemp. And then in 2018, the federal government finally came out and said, we're taking hemp off the controlled substance list. It's legal across the United States, our entire border of our country. It's legal to cultivate hemp. And that's when you started this process of, okay, what is hemp? What can we do with this plant? Yeah. Now we're able to research it. We're able to grow it. We're able to sell it. And early on, it started off with beauty products, CBD. Yeah. I remember the CBD boom. You had Hardee's with a CBD burger. Yes. It's crazy.
I had no idea.
Yeah. Well, they just had infused CBD ketchup they put on there. Yeah. Either way. So it became a thing with CBD, and CBD you can derive from hemp and marijuana. In fact, CBD is much better to get from hemp than it is marijuana because it's more plentiful in the hemp plant. And so you had a lot of this CBD boom. Well, then people realized that you've got a recreational use to hemp as well, because hemp has all the cannabinoids in it that marijuana has, except for THC.
Okay.
But there's tons of other ones. So they've been developing a lot of those. You've heard of Delta 8, which you see at all these different.
Yeah.
That's actually derived from CBD. You've got THCO, THCV, HHC. There's all these different Delta 10.
Yeah.
So there's all these different varieties of cannabinoids they are getting out of the hemp plant. And now you're seeing this in all these products, all of the shelves. It's all hemp-derived products. And in Tennessee, with edibles, if people like eating edibles, I know people especially have issues with sleeping, anxiety, things like that. They find a really good benefit from, ingestible type cannabis. You can do that here. You don't have to go out of state. It's legal to do here because the limitation of the THC is 0.3%. Well, in an ingestible, 0.3% is based on weight and volume. So you just get a big brownie. And I think I've done this math before. A 4-ounce brownie, you can have like over 300 milligrams of THC.
Whoa.
Legally in Tennessee.
Huh.
Now, it's about to change. They just passed they're about to pass a new law. They've passed it, but it's got to be signed by the governor, which will limit all ingestibles to 25 milligrams per serving. Which is plenty.
Yeah.
It's great. We're about to have one of the best hemp-derived cannabinoid regulations in the country.
Oh, really?
Awesome.
Yeah. And so now we've got the ability in Tennessee to have all these hemp products. And, as long as the THC level stays below 0.3%,
it's all good.
and it's not Delta 9 THC, because all the other cannabinoids, they're not measured. You can have as much of those as you want into them. So, you've got this really nuanced market here in Tennessee that's been pretty cool. So my role has been in 2015 when the pilot program came along, I went out there and started kind of learning about it, thinking I could help people apply for the program.
Yeah.
Wasn't much legal work in that. It was like a form you filled out.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys were farmers that wanted to grow it. So you had this big boom in Tennessee of all these people that wanted to grow this stuff.
Yeah.
And it was a big deal. I mean, you had people that grew tons of it. Well, if you know anything about supply and demand, you had a big supply, and then the demand kept going down and down and down.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, you had people realizing that growing this stuff in the state is not really the best. I mean, some people do, but that's not really the best moneymaker. And so I got to see. I was involved in 2015, and then 2018 we started our law firm, and then from 2018 till about COVID, I just spent a lot of time helping these hemp producers get licensed and form their companies and advise people on what was legal and what wasn't legal. Yeah. And then in 2020, really 2021, we pushed the envelope and we started, me and one of my clients and a couple business partners of mine started Buds and Brews, which is a cannabis bar and restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
So we
that's awesome.
We kind of pushed it a little bit. I think that actually launched in 2021. Yeah, that's right. 2021, we were fully in business in 2022. So, we've kind of been pushing some of that envelope, and it's been pretty neat. So I've now actually since sold out my interest in Buds and Brews, and we're moving on to new stuff. So we've been kind of pushing that. But my role as a lawyer is I represent tons of different companies and growers and retailers and producers and manufacturers of hemp and hemp products in the state. Yeah. So I'm constantly talking to people and giving them advice, and I get a call about every few calls a week and have these consultations of, okay, I want to get in this business. What do I do? What do I need to know? Yeah. And so I try to help guide people.
Where we got married at in Spring Hill, he, like a year after we got married in 2018 or 2019.
You don't know what year you got married?
No, I'm talking about whether it was a year or two after we got married. Whatever. All right. But he converted a lot of his land, because it was Allenbrook Farms. He converted a lot of his land into growing hemp. Yeah. And just seeing the production of that through his Instagram was insane how much he produced.
So Dan is a friend of mine, a client of mine. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Cool. Farmer Dan.
I grew up with Dan. We went to high school together. And his wife, ex-wife, now Stephanie, and I grew up down the street from each other.
Oh, they got divorced?
They got divorced, yeah.
I did not know that, because she was the wedding coordinator at Allenbrook Farms.
Cool. Yeah, she's they got divorced, and he's still running Allenbrook, and I'm a big part of the TGC, or a part of the TGC and some of these other organizations that will have events still out there. Yeah. I think there was a 420 event last year that I went to.
Oh, man.
But yeah,
it's beautiful out there.
Dan's a great dude.
Yeah.
And but their farm is just beautiful. So it's a good example. That's a great example of what I was just talking about. So Dan went out there, and he grew a pretty amazing crop. And actually, I believe, and I'm not speaking for Dan, I believe he was one of the producers that was actually able to get rid of his product and sell it for a decent price and actually do pretty decent out there. A lot of farmers found themselves with a huge crop and they couldn't sell it, because you can't just grow it and then let it sit around for a while. You've got to sell it, cultivate it, and then dry it and package it, and it can't just hang around. And so a lot of people kind of got caught without the ability to sell their product. And I think Dan did a pretty good job of not letting that happen.
Yeah, it still seems like he's selling it.
His farm is so neat, though. He has all kinds of amazing vegetables out there and different plants. And I've gone and toured it a couple times and walked around. And
many pigs at one point. But yeah, we were one of the first when his ex-wife built Allenbrook. Like we toured it before it was even fully built.
Yeah.
And we're like, all right, well,
this works.
We'll trust you that you know what you're going to be doing. And we got a pretty good discount on it as well. But it was beautiful out there. I loved
that
it.
venue's great. Yeah, so the venue's pretty cool. I've been to a couple events there, and it's a great place. Love the side of that barn, all the graphics on the side of the barn too.
That's awesome.
Most of the people, especially in this area, in this industry, I've either come in contact with or have some relationship with or know. And we were speaking at, me and 3 other people went and spoke at this 420 event this past week over at the local distro in Germantown. And I was over there with a guy named Frederick Cawthorn, Tanya from Nusachi, and then I can't remember her last name, and then Will Tarleton, who's a local guy, and who's he's one of the producers that used to be with Canvas, which is an East Nashville company. And so just really big pillars in the industry too. Cool. And Fred's a pretty amazing guy. So yeah, just getting to be around those people. I did it because I enjoy it, and it's something I'm kind of passionate about, and it's also a nice relief from what I do on a daily basis with my criminal defense work. So I always joke, I was like, criminal defense and that stuff is kind of my day job, and kind of do this on the weekends.
Yeah,
that's cool.
But I spend a lot of time doing this, so it's kind of funny. I don't just do this on the weekends.
Yeah.
But
what do you? How do your kids feel about you being a lawyer? Are they just kind of like you're argumentative? Like, how do your kids treat you about being a lawyer, especially for criminal defense and hemp?
Yeah, so I'm not sure they really have made tons of the connection with the hemp.
I mean, they're teenagers, so like
they will. Don't worry. I took my daughter to New York in October. Have y'all been to New York lately?
Not since it was legalized. Nope.
Jesus.
I've never been.
It's a very distinct
smell. So if you want to educate your kids without having to educate them yourself, just take them to New York for a weekend.
Yep.
Really?
The entire city smells like cannabis. Every place. It's crazy.
This is New York?
New York City. Manhattan. The streets, the subway, the hotels, the restaurant.
All
everywhere.
marijuana?
Yep. Yeah, and it's so funny because the word cannabis, I use it a lot, and there's all kinds of different words. The reason I always say cannabis because in the courtroom when we're talking about the smell, the officers always will say the smell of marijuana.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we haven't tested it yet. You don't know if it's marijuana or hemp. You just know it's cannabis.
It's the marijuana and hemp are classifications.
Of cannabis. So I've been trying to say that word over and over again to try to get. So if I say that, I'm not trying to be a douche or anything. I'm just I say it because to me that is the actual thing. Weed and marijuana is just hemp. They're all just slang words for whatever variety of cannabis you're dealing with. And now that's even got more confused with some of the different varieties of whether it's even hemp or marijuana. Because we won't get the weeds on that. That'd be like more for a cannabis show. But there's other things that exist in these certain
lots
products.
Of chemical type.
Yeah, like I'll get weird about it. So there's flour right now in Tennessee you can buy that is basically marijuana. I mean, it has the same impact, has the same THC level. It's just held up in what's called the THCA or acid chain. It's just not Delta 9 yet, but the second you heat it up, it is. So I don't know. It's kind of a little gray area in that world, a green area, maybe we could call it that.
Nice.
It's crazy. Yeah, but then you think about, you asked me about my day, I don't know where I'll get up in the morning. I used to get up to drive my daughter to school in the morning, which helped me because it like forced me to get up really early.
Yeah.
And I get up and I'm in court usually every day by 8:30 to 9. And then the court becomes a little unpredictable. So we don't know all the time when we're going to be leaving, even if it's set just for an hour or something, you just don't know. And then so my afternoons are usually filled with coming back to the office, meetings, work, prep, new client calls, all until that ends. And then whatever fires we're dealing with that day.
Yeah.
And then I would always go home and spend a little time with my family and then go right back to my home office by like 9 or 10 that night and work till about 1. So that has been my day for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, that's been about my swing. And I've had to try to get out of that some because that's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable.
Because I only sleep for 5 hours, six hours maybe, and that's just not enough. I've been trying my hardest to cut off work a little bit, normal time, spend more time with the family, more time with yoga or something like that, and then spending less time at night, you know, maybe getting done by 11:30, 12. Just trying to shorten that whole thing.
I think it's really hard to realize like what things in your life are kind of insatiable. So like your work life is probably always insatiable. You own a law firm. Like there's always more that needs to be done there, no matter what happens.
Always ever.
To set up a boundary or a barrier where you actually stop is like one of the hardest things to do ever. Because I think there's some assumption of if I just give a little bit more, everything will be happy, everything will be good, everything will be at a place where I can walk away. And it's just not reality. And it probably never will be. Unless you just stop caring completely.
Yeah, I'm reading a book right now, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Yeah. Yep.
But no, and I don't know if we can cuss on that. So
you're
cuss,
fine.
Yeah.
You're good.
No, it's so true because it's really two things. Well, really a couple things. One is the business. There's always something you can do to make this place better, and the people you work with make their lives better, and all that stuff. That never ends. But our client needs are never ending. I always tell clients I could work on your case every day.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't afford for me to work on your case every day, and I shouldn't because it doesn't make sense for me to spend all that time on your case when I know I only need to spend about X. Yeah. But every night I get that feeling. Yeah. So like on a week to week, month to month, there's always more to do. But every night, if I've got to be in court the next day, there's usually a preliminary hearing, some settlement negotiation, some hearing in the afternoon, and that's what keeps me up because I'm like, well, I could probably, and then I get started. Yeah. And I all of a sudden I look up and it's 12:40. Okay, I got to stop.
Again. Yep.
And I could spend every night doing as more for the next day's case every day. It is tough, but to your point, you've got to figure out some way to stop, or you'll get burnt out and you won't last, or as I'm getting to the age where we'll have a heart attack and I'll die or something.
Pretty much, stress will catch up with you. Yeah, because your body does hold it in.
Yeah, and I think yoga, exercise, getting some sleep, water, cannabis, different things like that, medication. You've got to take appropriate steps to try to deal with that in a healthy way, because there's a lot of unhealthy ways. I think lawyers have one of the highest rates of alcoholism and drug addiction. They have some of the highest rates of suicide. Yep. Wow. So you see those numbers, and it's staggering. Lawyers are at the top of the list for all that.
I used to work at a dentist's office before I quit work and started staying home. And dentists, it's also really high with also.
It is. It's crazy. Dentists are always right there with lawyers.
Yeah, because if you think about it,
I wonder why.
Well, it's because similar to a lawyer, unless you get hired on by a firm, would you go to a dentist that is straight out of dental school? Probably not. You would want someone who's done it for all, who you would trust. You're not going to choose a lawyer who's like, hey, I just graduated last month and just passed the bar. That's not your first choice for a lawyer. So like a dentist, they've got to figure out they are trying to factor in your actual physical health, how you feel about your own body and smile, and like multiple other things. So like the amount of things that are in a dentist's hand whenever he's inside of your mouth is a lot for him to factor in. Like if you don't like your smile, they're supposed to make your tooth like medically healthy and make you feel pretty at the same time. Like what if they choose, like whenever they do a filling, they choose a shade of color that your filling is. What if you don't like that shade? What if you come in and complain with them? Like that's all in their head.
Damn.
So like, and then they also might be a small business owner or hoping that the dentist office I worked at, there's a guy there who's like 28. And every time we walked into the room, they'd be like, oh, so how young are you? And he's like, I was top of my class in dental school. I've been doing this for 4 years. But every time I walk into a room, people are like, oh, so you're a baby. Yeah. And then they immediately lose trust. And if you're a lawyer or dentist, most people are looking for reasons not to trust you.
Yeah. I see that a lot in help wanted ads or anything like that of experience needed. Yeah. So how are you supposed to get the experience if no one's hiring somebody right out of school?
Yep. Or if someone's not willing to take the risk on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I to the second point you made about the dentist, I always struggle with wondering why that is, and I don't know, maybe what you said, or maybe I always joke, maybe there's something in people's mouths that like causes that. But I think that as I've thought through that over the years, that it has to do with most lawyers. are really one of a few different categories. There's probably some exceptions, but they either go work at a big firm or they hang a shingle.
Yeah.
Right? They got their own thing, whether it's themselves and a secretary or just themselves working from home, or they've got a little small firm like we have. And I think that the stresses that come with managing your own little outfit plus the client needs, and then you add in, in our world, the legal world or the court system, and there you add in the insurance system.
Yep.
And you've got somebody running a small business in an area that's really stressful, and it's almost designed to really penny pinch. Like you look at your bills from a dentist office, they're not big.
Yeah.
I even told my dentist, who I'm friends with, Matt Averett in Cool Springs, I was like, man, you should be charging me more. I was here for like an hour and a half.
Yep.
You had 3 people in here. Now you charged me $170.
Yep, for x-rays and a cleaning. Yep.
I'm like, well, I got to be paying more than that. I mean, I actually enjoy it sometimes.
Yeah.
Like I paid $170 for the massage, Yeah,
right. Yeah.
I'm not getting medical treatment, So, and I think it's the same thing with lawyers. Is people assume they can get it for cheap or free, and then maybe there's some of that there too. So I don't really know the answer, but I do know that there's oftentimes a correlation between dentists and lawyers when it comes to. And it's not doctors, it's dentists specifically.
Because normally, if you're a dentist office, like there's not like. You could go work at St. Thomas if you're a doctor. You can work for a big medical association. If you're a dentist, you're probably doing a family-run operation.
There you go.
And those are, you're charging, if someone doesn't have insurance, maybe $200 for cleaning and x-rays. That's one client. So you have to have, if you're open from 9 until 5, if you don't have an hour of that booked, how are you going to keep your lights on?
Yeah, and I bet it's pretty thin margins, just volume-based. And that's a tough thing to do, I think, when you've got to work in your business, right? Because if you are maybe a landscape company owner, I always joke. Another good example is my best friend who owns a big car dealer, right?
Yeah.
People come in to buy the Lamborghini. They don't necessarily care who their salesperson is. It doesn't have to be him that's selling the car. His company, in essence, exists, but he doesn't have to work in his company. He has to work on his company.
Yep.
Yeah.
I've got to work in it. And I need to be working on it, and it's sometimes hard to do both, And I know that I read all these entrepreneur books and things like that, and podcasts, and they talk about you got to work on your business, not in your business. You know?
But like, if I'm going to Freeman and Fuson, I'm assuming I'm going to talk to you at some point in time.
Nobody, to your point, nobody who gets arrested for aggravated assault is going to go to the guy out of law school.
Nope.
He wants the guy who's been here for a while. So I heard this the other day, and I'm going to probably use it a lot. It's like being involved in a cake eating contest, right? Where the prize is more cake. It's so good. I think it was in reference to an associate in a firm trying to work their way up, but I think it applies to what we do. If you do a really good job, you'll get more clients and you work more.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
It's the weird reality of success. Is like I was talking to someone where they were quitting their job so they could do their restaurant business full time, and it's like, oh yeah, so you got successful, so now you can have more stress and be more successful. That's good. I think that's good. No, it's good. Oh man, I'm sorry. Congrats. I don't know.
I envy the guys that just get successful and are cool. They get enough successful they can just back off.
Yeah.
But I don't know if when I was growing up, I guess I wanted to be a lawyer in high school, and I thought, not that it would have guided me, but I assumed they made a lot of money.
Yeah, that's usually the assumption.
What, you guys don't?
I mean, some of us do. Yeah.
I'm joking.
But you just assume that, and you don't think through it. I mean, you'd be a lot better off financially and less stressed if you started a business that ran on its own, that was successful, that made it. You made X amount of dollars a year. A lot of times, I don't think that 90%, and I heard this a long time ago, I think it's probably true, 90% of the criminal defense lawyers probably make 10% of the money, and about 10% make about 90% of the money.
Yep.
That leaves a lot of criminal defense lawyers that work their butts off, handling the same stress as I do.
Yep.
They just aren't able to charge as much, or they're doing appointed work. There's a lot of lawyers down there. If you get in trouble and you go to court and you don't have the money to hire a lawyer, they'll appoint one to you, and it's not always the public defender. The public defender gets filled up, or they have conflicts. So you get young lawyers right out of law school, or lawyers that have been around for a while that just decided not to hang their own shingle and just work out of the courthouse.
Yeah,
I never knew how that worked.
$50 an hour.
That's how much they charge.
That's what they get paid.
Or get paid
from the state. They got $50 an hour. They get their hours cut. They're capped on certain cases.
Yeah.
It's a tough way to make a living, and you're doing work for people that is profoundly important work.
Yeah,
I mean, even for people that don't have much in the world, them going to jail could impact their family.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just a
lot of ripple effects.
Yeah, and the same stresses we deal with.
Yeah.
And in fact, I would say people who work in the public defender's office and do appointed work probably deal with more because they deal with two things. One, they deal with a client that probably doesn't trust them as much as they do. When they come and hire me, they're going to, in essence, most of the time trust me.
Yeah.
And they don't. They look at them like, oh, who are you? You know,
I didn't even choose you.
Yeah, you're a government lawyer.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm your lawyer.
Yeah.
And some of them just skim and don't do much work, and they feed into that stereotype. And some of them are young lawyers that want to do good and just don't want to work for a firm or worry about dealing with clients or attracting clients.
Yeah.
And they're really good lawyers. And so they have to fight an uphill battle a little bit. So if they're parents and dads, I imagine their struggles are even tougher, frankly. I mean, at least one of the things that I get the benefit of is that we've got a law firm here. We do a lot of work for people that can afford to pay us.
Yep.
So
there is some assumption of how much school you went to and how much money you spent on school means you should then make an amount of revenue or have a salary that then helps justify that. That's not always the case.
Yeah, I mean, Gary Vee. Do y'all watch Gary Vee?
No.
It was just like I was at home last night for a couple hours, so I'm sitting there flipping through stuff. And he just last night said something about that. They said, should my kid go to college? You know, he's a big guy that talks about, well, college is maybe not important. And his response was, well, what do they want to do?
Yeah.
Well, they don't know what they want to do. Well, then
why are they going?
What do they do? I mean, maybe if you don't, you go and try to find out. That's an expensive way to try to find out. His response is send them to Europe for a year.
Yeah.
Be cheaper, and they're probably going to grow in life way more than they grow, you know, kicking back beers at the fraternity house, you know. So,
man, I wish I would have done that.
you know, right? Just going out. I mean, I knew. Well, I thought I was going to be a lawyer in high school.
Yeah.
So weirdly enough, I was with my group of friends. They were always getting in trouble and stuff, and I remember thinking I was always on the back seat saying, "Hey guys, we shouldn't do that.
There's legal repercussions
What are we
of this.
doing? What are we doing?" So I kind of fed into that, and I went to college believing I wanted to go to law school.
Yeah.
So that helped keep me grounded a little bit because I knew, well, I got to get good enough grades to get into law school.
Yeah, pretty much.
Not like the best, but I had to get good enough grades. I had to go to class. I had to get out of there in 4 years. So I did all those things, and that was helpful. And then I went to law school, and I was able to. I worked for a guy, so I got out of law school and went and worked for a guy named Neal and Harwell, Jim Neal, who was one of the legends of the legal community in Tennessee.
Okay.
He represented the Ford Motor Company in the Ford Pinto litigation.
Okay.
He represented the Exxon Company in the Exxon Valdez litigation.
wow.
Oh, yeah. I mean, just a legend.
Yeah.
He was part of the team that prosecuted Jimmy Hoffa
Oh.
in Nashville. He was prosecuted in Nashville.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I had no idea.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that
for
either.
the Teamster stuff. It was here in Nashville. In fact, the other guy on the case was named Estes Kefauver, and they named the federal courthouse after him, the Estes Kefauver building. So just a legend. So I worked with him for just as like his runner for several months, and then I got a job with a guy named Tom Nebel, who was also a really, really phenomenal lawyer, Bass, Berry & Sims attorney, that weirdly enough got indicted by the federal government. Represented himself and got an acquittal against the feds.
Seriously?
It could be its own podcast. But I went and worked for him when he was making his way back up, and he attracted me after a year. He said, just stay on board here and I'll pay for law school.
Oh.
And so I was able to go to law school here at Nashville School of Law and work during the day, and he paid for law school. So
Wow.
That's pretty awesome.
It was great, yeah.
My sister always told me when she did tenant law, it's a lot more like the Wild West. You kind of create a narrative and like for your client base, and like, all right, here's what we agree happened. And then you try to sell your narrative to a judge a lot of times is what she thought going to, is it trial or court whenever you go and speak in front of the judge?
Well, so it's a trial. It's
cool.
But what typically when people refer to trials, they usually refer to a jury trial with jurors.
Yes, correct, yes.
And in general sessions court, where your landlord-tenant cases are heard, and domestic court,
yes,
and a lot of civil matters are heard before a judge. Those are also trials, but they're called bench trials.
Okay, cool.
But yeah, most people in that world are having a lot of bench trials.
Yeah.
Going in front of a general sessions judge, tenant, landlord, throw it up there.
Here's my narrative.
Judge decides right there on the bench.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, you got 10 days to appeal.
Yeah. But I never realized before your ability to craft a story is a good majority of being a lawyer.
It is, and I'll tell you, we're dealing with this upstairs right now. It was part of my presentation. You have to spend time with your client. And it's hard. We talked about all the day long, like what your schedule looks like. Want to get home to see my kid for the little while because she's got softball.
Yep.
And you got a meeting with your client that's scheduled for an hour.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know where we are now. It doesn't take long.
No.
You know, if I'm really trying to get to know them, get to know their history, know why them and their girlfriend were in this argument that led him to, allegedly assault her. What else is going on here? Let me see your text messages.
Yeah.
Now you've got all this data that people communicate with you didn't have 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody just talks on the phone anymore.
Yeah.
And so when I'm like, what happened? They're like, pull out their phone and they start doing
There you
this,
go.
scrolling through their phone, so it takes time. And if you rush that process, you create the wrong narrative or you don't have the narrative, and then you're not successful. I mean, every time I've ever felt that I've been able to represent a client effectively has come with me understanding their story.
Because you have to believe it whenever you sell, not sell it whenever you tell it.
Yeah, well, you're selling it. I mean, you're selling it. I mean, I'm telling it in the hopes to sell it to them. But no, I mean, and you have to be honest to the court. I've got an ethical duty as a lawyer to not lie. I can't be dishonest to the DAs I'm talking to.
Nope.
So you have to, figure out what narrative is based on those facts. And you do the same thing when you're cross-examining. So we create themes and theories in these cases, and then we run those themes and theories through our questioning too.
Yeah.
I mean, if I think, for example, I don't know, rush to judgment. That's a good one you hear all the time. Like this, the officer rushed to judgment. He made an assumption and made a decision early on. Well, if that's your theme, then when I'm questioning the officer, I'm talking about, officer, you agree with me as an officer. You don't want to be rushing to judgment. You want to make sure you have all the information, right? That's wrong for police officers to make assumptions, right? You need to base it on evidence, and then you kind of build that on.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And so you'd only know that if you spent time with your client to know that that was a rush to judgment, then be able to weave that through the case. So it just takes, case prep and case analysis that we call it. So,
Story creation.
Yeah, and you can get so much with your kids. I tell you, you can play this stuff off. Well, I'll go in there with my wife and I'll say, hey, I got this hearing tomorrow. And my daughter will be in there and I'll say, what do you think?
Yeah.
And I'll spit some facts out. And she'll just, it's amazing how, first of all, how bright kids are. But secondly, how somebody that knows you well and is going to shoot you straight will just tell you, I'm not buying it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't get that. I had a trial when I kept running my opening statement by her.
Yeah.
And the theme was in the statement. She's like, I'm not getting it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, you're a juror. They're not going to get it either.
Yeah,
if you don't
like
get it,
then this is
hell
dead
no.
in water.
We get lost in our own little world. And I bet both you guys, but I bet in your industry too, you get lost in your own world. Like, I know what I think's best, because I've done this for so long. And sometimes you've got to kind of step back and go, I'm not always playing to a landscape expert. I'm playing to a client that wants to look pretty.
Yeah.
Or I'm playing to a juror that wants to be home by 5 because she's got to get out of there and she don't want to be.
Yeah.
They're not going to dive as deep as we dive.
Yeah.
You'd be amazed. A lot of the teachings we go, the seminars and stuff we go to for lawyers is basically trying to tell you how not to be a lawyer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Don't use lawyer words. Don't be a lawyer. Be a person.
But I just spent all this time focusing on this. Did
It's
you
hard.
just tell me not to? Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of for us, it's all about relationships with our clients, getting them to trust us in order to sell them a service. And if they don't trust you, then it kind of falls apart. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But getting that relationship, getting them to educate is what we have to end up doing. We have to educate our clients on what would be good in this landscape setting. Because we do have a lot of times where a client is like, oh, I want a palm tree, or I want a couple palm trees over here by our swimming pool, and we're like, all right, we're not in Florida, we're not in California.
Yeah.
We're a landscape business, but we're not like an actual personal gardener to your guys' property, so we can't be there to take it out,
to move it inside,
to care for it all the time. So it's all about educating.
And you're trying to educate, so here's which zone we live in. What's the zone? Well, zone tells you what plants can actually live here and not live here. How long has this existed? Always?
Yeah.
Since the beginning?
Since plants existed?
No, and I think that you're right. I mean, as lawyers and as business owners, you can choose to operate in a way that only benefits you if you want to. You can say, sure, we'll put a palm tree. How much is that? It's expensive.
Cool. Expensive. That's real expensive. And whenever it dies a year from now, we need to replace it. It's not just going to cost us.
You wouldn't even say that. You'd say, sounds great, Mary.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
By the way, here's my contact.
Here's 4 of them. And then they call you 6 months later and they say, this thing died. And you say, we'll put another one in.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you milk them every time. Or you can be that good person that says, you know what, Mary, I'm not going to take your money to put the palm tree because it's going to be dead. And you don't want a dead palm tree.
Nope.
We get it happen all the time where people reach out to us and want us to file lawsuits against people. I had this happen with one of these codes issues lately, and I called the client. I said, look, we can do all this. We can file this lawsuit, but you're going to end up paying us more than you'll ever get back out of this lawsuit.
Yeah.
Do you
want to lose money?
And if I was somebody that didn't care, I'd say, yeah, heck yeah,
that's
file the lawsuit, man.
That works for me.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Here's the bill. You know, that's not the way to do it.
No, it's not. Unless you just don't believe in integrity, you know.
And I also want the clients to come back and make good
Yes.
referrals, and that goes to probably any business owner. You kind of want that continued, you know. And it's also, you know, if we're thinking about it here on the Nashville Dads podcast of as parents, you know, what do we want to be? What example do we want to set for our kids? I mean, I know they're not seeing me do this, but I think that, you know, where they talk about like reputation and character, one's what you do when you're not being seen, and one's what you see. Yeah. I want them both to be done the right way. I like to sleep at night, even if it's only 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think our body holds dissonance. So whenever you're telling your kids like this is the person you need to be, and then you don't do that during your day, you feel that, you know that within yourself, and hopefully through yoga, meditation, you acknowledge that you've done that, and then you just are a little bit better the next time you get the opportunity to be a little bit better.
Yeah. Yeah, we always need to be trying to be better parents.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard work. I mean, we've got 2 daughters, and I don't know what you guys' kids' ages are.
I've got one 19 months.
7, 5, and 19 months.
Oh, yeah. So you guys are a little younger, but I mean, and I really don't even remember when they were that. I mean, I do, but I remember it being really stressful and my wife doing a whole lot of work that I was not having to do. I just remember her taking a lot of that workload on when they were really young. Now, you know, at this age where they're 13 and 16, you know, they're little like adults. I mean, they have their own attitude, their own feelings, their own schedules. It's like it's now just a different level of stress. You know, now they can go anywhere. Yeah. Whereas before they were trapped at your feet, crying and all the things they do and needing you. So it's like a different pull. But it's definitely something that I try to strive to be better. When we get in these arguments with these girls, and I leave, I'm like, oh, I didn't do that right.
Yeah,
I didn't do that right. What am I doing? You know, and then my wife too, because she gets the brunt of it. I mean, these girls, they just go at it, man. Yeah, and they're really similar because, you know, my wife is dealing with a lot of the hair, clothes, and that's a big deal for teenage girls. I mean, you know, I'm like, just wear the whatever,
just shave your head,
Dad. I'm like, your hair looks beautiful. They're like, no, it doesn't.
I'm like, oh, sorry. Was I supposed to say you were pretty or not pretty? I'm actually not sure in this scenario.
I'm so confused.
Yeah, and she has to fight those fights, and I know that it's hard for her because, you know, she's somehow in the, you know, she's the not public enemy number 1 to the girls, but she's the one that has to fight those fights with her, and I get to come in and kind of say, hey guys, like everybody calm down.
Okay, right?
Yeah.
Here
and
I come to save the day.
Yeah. It doesn't work out too well.
No, and then what happens, what I've been stupidly doing lately is if I believe kind of my daughters are smart too. Like sometimes my wife's not always right. I know it's crazy. I mean, she's usually right, but she's not always right. And man, you don't, you know, we've said this from day one that my wife and I have to show that we are priorities to each other first. Yeah. And that was hard. I mean, well, it seemed easier when they were younger because you could just kind of be, you know, you could talk and they weren't really listening. Yep. When they get older, all of a sudden it's a little harder to do that. And I've got to constantly be reminded that my wife and I come first, that, you know, but when I go into the little argument about some nonsense or whatever, and I go, well, Gwen's kind of right. I mean,
what did you say?
I said, oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Never mind. I'm neutral. I'm Switzerland. I'm out of this thing.
I'm the stay-at-home parent, so I feel that from the other end of where I'm like, no, they've been doing this all day. And my wife will be like, do you just need to go on a walk for like literally 10 minutes? I'm like, no. On principle alone, I'm not. Okay, I'll go put my shoes on now. You're right. I'm more the problem in this scenario than the 7-year-old. Thank you for the reminder.
Usually she's right, and I'm usually when I come in right. Like, hey, you've probably been in the middle of this too long.
You're
like,
a little too focused. Yep.
And she's really good at that. She'll take this. She'll walk out and go to another room for a second. You know, and she's really good at. I take it a little more. I take it deeper. I'm like, oh my God, you're ruining the relationship. It's just it'll be fine tomorrow. You know, and she's right. It is, and they're fine. But they're it's great. You know, we're my 16-year-old is at FRA, is a sophomore there, is playing softball. She's in theater. Oh, nice. You know, she worked over at Mayor Bull's last summer.
Oh, did she?
Yeah,
she
worked. Brandon got her a job.
Sweet.
And so she was a server or a hostess over there and a bar server's assistant. Nice. For the summer. So she's good, man. She's getting older and she's growing, and you know, she's doing all the things that you should be doing in high school.
Nice. Yeah.
She was also in the theater. and we have no musical talent in our family. I mean, the Fusons or the Argos were my wife's maiden name. Nobody.
Yeah.
The only, I guess, creative person in our family that I can even think about is my wife's uncle, is Miles Maley, who's a really successful artist around town.
Okay.
And he's a fascinating person. He's a really successful guy and a great guy. But other than that, there's no musical talent. There's no instruments. There's no nothing. And my daughter's like, I'm going to sing in the talent show. I was like,
All right, here we go.
and her friends are so supportive, and they're great people, and they're so supportive of her. They're like, yeah, you can do this.
Yeah.
You're great. I'm like, oh gosh.
Let's see how this goes.
Because it's in front of the school, and
Yeah.
I'm there. The whole family comes, and she was like, Dad, it's pretty good, But she'd never rehearse in front of us or anything.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about it. I'm like, I wonder if they're just telling her she's good and she's going to not do good. And
Yeah.
all the dad feelings that
Yeah.
go on. And we go there. I'll get a little emotional about talking. We'll go. It was in front of all the students at FRA, and she's towards the end. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, why would they put her at the end if she's not that good? Like,
Yeah.
setting her up to she's right before the finale.
Yeah.
Geez. So I sat through the whole thing, all these amazingly talented singers and just really, really phenomenal students. And they get to her, and her friend come out, and they were amazing.
Yeah.
And I even told
awesome.
my daughter, my younger daughter who wasn't there, I said, it was real good. Like, I was prepared to lie and say it was
Yeah,
good,
yeah.
even though it wasn't good.
Yeah.
It was amazing. I got tearful. I was
Aw.
like, it was one of my favorite dad moments
That's
I've
That is
had.
so
Like,
cool.
I was shocked by what she did. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't me. I had nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
no role in that whatsoever, not even genetically a role.
Yeah.
And it was pretty profound. It was awesome. It was one of those few moments that I will hold on to,
That's
because I remember
sweet.
that feeling of
Yeah.
I'm so impressed by her.
Yeah.
That is so
And most
cool.
of your feelings before that were probably protection inspired.
100%.
Like, oh man, you're going to get embarrassed. Like, our family doesn't do this. Like, I'm so worried for what this will do to you.
Yeah.
How do we get through this? And there's like, oh, I worried about nothing all this time.
Absolutely. And she didn't appear nervous. That's
Yeah.
what blew me away. And you'll love this. They do these little like videos before. So like before each student comes out, it was her and her friend. They had this video of them up together.
Yeah.
She was so nervous in the video.
Oh, really?
Oh,
You're like,
no.
oh, gosh.
So it's set.
That's the video.
Sweating sitting there. Yeah.
Why did she want to sing?
Yeah.
Like, it was like a basic question. She's kind of, yeah, it was like that. And then she gets up there and looks cool as a cucumber.
And
And,
kills
then-
it.
and afterwards I go, well, were you not nervous? She goes, well, I was before, like early in the night. And she goes, but my singing partner, she was really nervous. Like, she was like terrified. So I was like, I can't be nervous too, because we're both nervous. So I decided I'm not going to be nervous anymore. I was like,
Wow.
That's cool.
okay,
Yeah.
good for you. That was pretty
Yeah.
amazing. So
Yep.
that's pretty
Stepped
awesome.
up your
That's
game for your
cool.
friend. That's really sweet.
100%.
That's cool.
Yeah. It was pretty cool. That was a cool dad moment.
So, how we close out our episode. So, whenever we would record at Justin's house, we'd record in his kitchen, and we'd always be like, "Oh, I think I hear Ada crying. We should probably wrap this episode up." So, how we do them now to have like a natural end to the episode is we ask like 5 icebreaker questions. Justin will ask the first question.
All right.
All right. So, for your 2 daughters, did you have any backup names for them?
So our older daughter, no, we chose Maylee. Her name's Maylee,
Okay.
and that's my wife's family's maiden name, my wife's mother's maiden name, and my wife's uncle's name, Miles Maley. And
Oh, cool.
we love that as a first name.
Cool.
And so we kind of agreed on that right when we found out she was a girl.
Nice.
I was probably going to push for, Joseph, or just running the same name as mine.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe do a junior or something. I wasn't going to go too crazy on the guy, but found a girl. We had one name that was stuck.
Nice.
And then for the second name, what the real thing was the middle name. We didn't have a middle name. We weren't going to tell anybody what the middle name was. And my wife came up with James because we have some connections to the Frank and Jesse James family and all that
cool.
stuff. So she thought it was kind of cool. And so she was like, let's do something different. And so it's Maylee James.
Cool.
And I remember we told our family, and they were like, James.
I have a friend, Chris Wolf. His first daughter's name is Isla James.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so I always tell Maylee, because she wants to go in and do something with show business and stuff, or
Yeah.
music or movies or something. I was like, well, that could be perfect. You just take Fuson off, because people mispronounce it all the time, and just be Maylee James. That'll be
Yeah.
a good name for you,
That's
stage
cool.
name. So, but for my younger daughter, yeah, we were. My grandmother's name was Gwendolyn, and she said
okay.
we couldn't name anybody after her because she hated her name. So we came up with Gwyneth.
Gwyneth?
Gwyneth,
Nice.
yeah.
That's
So we call her Gwen, and we had a few names rolling around, but my wife kind of decided that, and I
Was
rolled
it?
with it. Yeah,
I like that name.
yeah. So it's Gwen and Maylee are our 2 daughters. Gwen and May.
Nice. Second question. Do you have a favorite TV dad?
Yeah, Al Bundy.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, in fact, every time I catch those, and they'll go. One channel still runs some of those.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's at the very bottom, like down towards the bottom of my
Yeah.
YouTube TV list. Yeah, for sure. I grew up watching Married with Children. So.
I've never watched Married with Children as an adult, and I know if I ever watched it as a kid, I didn't understand a single joke that was happening on there.
Probably you just looked at Christina Applegate.
I was like, "Hi,
Bud."
Yep.
But yeah, you probably wouldn't. You probably couldn't make that as like you could now.
heck no.
He was pretty.
Heck no, man. My parents would not let me watch it, but I would sneak.
You'd figure it
I'd
out.
figure it out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
That
Or
and
maybe
The
maybe
Simpsons.
Family Guy dad or something.
Yeah,
but
Peter Griffin. Yeah.
Peter Griffin.
Yep.
All right. Least favorite kid show or movie? Usually
Caillou.
Caillou. Wow, that was fast.
Was that even still around?
It's not
Caillou.
anymore, but so many dads hate that show.
What is that?
It's
Okay.
like the bald guy, right?
It was a non the kid you couldn't tell if it was a boy or girl.
Yeah.
There was no eyebrows, there was no facial expressions. The kid would just sit there and talk. It was the weenie. I didn't want anybody to watch it. I didn't want any of my kids to watch it, but they loved it for a little while, and I was like, man, this is the worst show
Okay.
ever. Yeah, I would like try to get rid of it when I'd see it on. And
Yeah.
the kid was so wimpy, and it was all like
Just every characteristic they had, you're like, I'm good.
I'm good.
Not for my
Yeah,
kids.
if I had boys, I would have banned it. But
Really?
but no, that I joke because nowadays with the TV shows, they watch what's the name of it? Outer Banks.
Oh yeah.
So you'd think like, oh, that's a pretty good show. Yeah, for adults
For
it is.
adults, yeah, not for a 16-year-old.
Yeah, they're like it's pretty racy. So
There's some rape scenes also, right?
I think there's drugs and
Yeah, I
rapes and
think there's
alcohol and
yeah.
shootings
Whoa,
and
what is this?
but the kids, they all want to
They're all
watch
into
it.
it.
They're all into it, and I'm not going to be the dad that says you can't watch.
Everyone else is
something.
watching, but you
Who's-
can't.
who's in it?
It's based on a book series, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, the guy. I'll tell you, the guy who was in it was the father was the guy from Nashville. He was the
yeah.
main
okay.
guy character in Nashville. This TV series here.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's the only person I recognize.
yeah.
But yeah, so that to me that annoys me because it's kind of a good show, but I don't want them
But like,
really watching it.
yeah.
She's like, Dad, I've already seen it twice. I'm like,
I'm like, that's
Okay.
how, anytime I watch, like, I keep up with Stranger Things, and I notice that's like a really big teenager following. I'm like, well, I know all the characters are teenagers, but like, there's a lot of really creepy murder in this show.
well, and it's kind of the first one was kind of not
Yeah.
scary, but like you're kind of on the edge of your seat.
Yeah.
But I loved that show, and I loved watching it with them because it had all the '80s
Yes.
nostalgia
Yeah.
and
Uh-huh.
the Bronco. Oh,
Yep.
guess
I have
Bronco was
a
so
lot
cool.
of weird 80s slasher knowledge. So whenever I watch them, I'm like, oh, you're just doing Freddy Krueger. That's the entire season, the bad guy's Freddy Krueger. That's pretty cool. Well done.
Dude.
And I read a lot of Stephen King, so I'm very familiar with all the themes they're doing.
Freddy Krueger
So-
was
They just
the
duplicate.
most
They really have that.
horrific one out of all the bunch.
Man.
That was the one I was most
Yeah.
scared of.
The Friday the 13th with the camp and the
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's
See, I
amazing.
could run away and just keep running.
But no, you
That's
couldn't.
what they
Fre-
thought,
No,
Justin.
you
Freddy-
could not run away. You
Freddy,
would fall.
he's in your dreams.
fall.
You'd fall.
I love the commercials for Geico when the one with the axe or the chainsaw murderer. They're like, "Where do we go?"
Oh,
She's
yeah.
like, "What about the open car?" You're like, "No way!
what about
Let's go
going
hide
behind
behind
the
the chainsaws."
And the guy's just standing there almost exhausted by the fact he has to murder him.
Yeah. Like, you guys are
That is so
stupid.
good.
Yes. All right. Next question is: do you have a favorite like kids toy, or like whenever your kids were growing up, whenever they would play with it, you'd be like, "Oh, this is actually pretty fun. I want to play with this too."
Oh man, I got girls, so there wasn't as
Yeah.
many toys. Man, I don't. I will tell you this. Yes,
Okay.
when they got those hovercrafts.
Oh, yeah.
Where you
Oh,
put your
yeah,
feet on it
yeah,
and
the
you, like the
hoverboards, yeah.
videos of people like wiping out and stuff.
Yeah.
I got to where I was pretty good at that thing. I would
Yeah.
whip around the house and yeah, that was one. And they were really good at it.
Were
They
they?
could like, yeah, they would use it. You just put your feet on it and just go, you know? Yeah, that was pretty cool. And I also had a Segway that a client of ours gave us a Segway one time and we kept it for a while. My law partner's handicapped, so he would
Okay.
use it to run up to the Titans games. He'd put the handicap tag on
Seriously?
the Segway
That's awesome.
and they'd let him ride up into the stadium, but
Nice.
it's now broken.
That is so cool. All right, you may have kind of already answered this one, but what moment of your kid's life are you most excited to be a part of? You kind of answered it with the
Singing.
listening to her sing.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I told that story earlier, but I think that is. I mean, for sure with my older daughter, like her
Yeah.
doing that was pretty profound, and just seeing her get up there and pull that off. With my younger daughter, I guess cheer is what she does mostly. I'll tell you what it was with. It was coaching. I coached her softball team, my younger daughter's softball team.
Yeah.
And we were the Purple Unicorns. And I'm telling you, we were awful.
Yeah.
But it was the most fun. I don't know if you guys coach or will coach sports for your kids. Man, I did it for like 2 years. It was a lot of it was definitely stressful because you have to line ups and get to the game on time. But my schedule's really tough for these 4:30 games for me to get to where I need to be. But man, it was so cool. It was so much fun. Because we weren't that good, so when we would win, we're going out for party. We're all going out ice cream. The place would go nuts, and it was so funny. We had won I don't think we won any games during the year. Maybe one because they didn't keep score that good when they were younger. But we won the first game of the playoffs, and and I was coach pitch. So I'm pitching for them for the first year, and the second year they're pitching. But that was pretty fun. That was, and then she only did softball for a year or two, and now she does cheer. And I have that's a whole different thing.
That's a whole different world. Yes,
man, it's crazy. And those girls work so hard at that cheer. They work so much. Like they practice 2 hours a day, nonstop, all to go up there and perform for like 2 minutes.
Yeah. But in college, man, cheer is pretty big, especially at UK. We've won like 20-something.
Oh, did you?
20-something of the championships. Oh, yeah.
It's a big deal. It's a big moneymaker, too, because there's the school cheer, and then there's the All-Stars or the premier thing they do.
Yeah.
They're proud of it. And you go to all these different locations in Orlando and Louisville. So,
I'm looking forward to it.
Well, Joey, if people want to follow you, do you want to promote your Instagram? Do you want to promote anything like that? If people want to know more about your life?
No, my Instagram is betterknowjoe, better.know.joe. And then, Freeman and Fuson's our law firm. We've got a bunch of good lawyers there. We're right here on 21st in Hillsborough Village in Nashville. And, that's freemanfuson.com. So that's our website. And that's the same with our Facebook. So, those are good.
There you go.
There you go.
Well, sweet. Awesome. Joey, thanks for being on. Really appreciate it.
Awesome, man. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks again for listening. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at the Nashville Dads and to subscribe to us on Apple and Spotify podcast. We record at New Light Podcast Studio and episodes are produced by me, Devin.